I think we're both acting a little bit strange on camera because we've got the signal, and I think we'd be very different were this not here. So let's see how we adapt to it. If you see me looking off, the room's a lot bigger than just this. So I'm looking at some other things in the house. I'm trying to find my way.
We're doing things like people would do things, not let's do this for 6 months and get everything perfect. Because that's not life, is it? This is life. So,
and last bit before we properly start with the podcast or whatever this is.
Somebody's good.
I think it's working title. I like this start because this is something the guys on the Overlap do. So shout out to another podcast crew or YouTube channel with Gary Neville, Jamie Carragher, Roy Keane, and Ian Wright. Excellent. Another one of my favourite of them. So thanks for the inspiration, chaps. Right. So, what was it? So, this is for the viewers and listeners that were listening last week and getting annoyed and agitated with our terrible humming. Okay, enough about other stuff. Let's get into the politics now. Last week, we set ourselves the task of reading all of the manifestos. And
what a great read.
I'm really grateful to my co-pilot and good friend, colleague, esteemed mate, father of my... Yeah, leave it there.
It's now they get to make up their minds. Always leave that blank bit.
Yeah, there's the
mother of my children.
Let's focus on the task at hand. We're definitely waffling. I'm definitely waffling too much here, so let's get into it. The manifestos, you read them all. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a tough job. Somebody's got to do them, and I guess that's the point, right? Is how many people actually read, like just Joe Public, actually read the manifestos? And from what I understand, the manifestos are really it's the pitch. It's what those parties.
Yeah, I see it as bullet points, like anything else. Sky, BBC, anyone else for the people will just bullet point everything, and you pick the ones you like, the ones you don't like, or okay, I like that, but how are they going to achieve that? Things like that. And these manifestos, we're a thing that's riding on the whole. The Tories are due to have the lowest amount of seats since their formation, which is a quote from BBC News. You'd think that Labour must have some serious manifesto policies that would jump out and grab you, and not only grab you, just pull you in as well. And all I read was extra funding for NHS. Never heard that one before. 300,000 extra homes being built a year. Never heard that one either. And I've heard from the Tories that they're going to cut the national insurance, which is, they've already cut it by 1%, which actually did affect my paycheck. And it was quite a substantial boost. And let's not forget why we pay national insurance in the first place, which is because of the war against Napoleon. A lot of people forget that. Yeah, what is that? People laugh. Yeah, like that was brought in to fund,
dropping nuggets,
to fund a war against France. Way back, as you know, it ended in 1815. It eventually exiled him to that tiny little obscure island. And the whole point of that insurance was basically a tax. That's what it was. Another tax, but it was against France. So people were like, yeah. Well, I stopped down the gun and come over here, etc., etc. And when the war ended, just sort of kept that in there. What did they use that money for? Not entirely sure. Over the years, over the past 150 years, what were they using the tax that was used to fund a war for? So why is it still there exactly when we had already had tax that we paid?
Well, it's a stuff, isn't it?
Yes.
Like, a lot of the tax.
That's only a stealth tax.
But now it's used for the national insurance, right? So national health, sorry. So it goes,
Oh no, because the NHS. No, because that's the other tax goes towards the NHS. The normal tax that you pay, not national insurance. There's national insurance and there's the tax that you pay. And the tax that you pay, that goes towards policing, ambulances, NHS, everything else. And then there's this other tax. So where's it going? People just go, it's always been there. So you don't really look at it.
Okay, I love this because I think this is a really interesting point you make about ultimately how, and just going back to the manifestos, and I just bring us back onto the point.
Yeah.
I love the segue because I think it's a really good point you make. But the question with a lot of these manifestos is how are they going to pay for the things that they're proposing?
To me, that's the only point.
If you've watched, like I watched a couple of the political debates, the Tories in particular made a big point of saying that the Labour's manifestos didn't add up, or that then it was going to add an additional 2 onto your tax individually. I think enough people have disputed that, and there's been enough fact checks to sort of discredit it. But it is a valid question, as is applicable to all of the parties' manifestos. And again, I want to, because you read them, and I think it's brilliant that you did, because I don't think everybody will have read them. I didn't. I had the intention to. I just used a AI search engine to help me.
And they'll able people. That's what people do, isn't it?
But I want to just go back to some of the main differences. If you were able to see any differences, because it seemed to me that you were suggesting they're all quite similar.
Extremely similar. Even the language was similar, where one party would say to the other, well, how are you going to do this? So the other party would say, well, how are you going to fund this? It's like, okay, they're great questions, but you're not actually helping anyone. You're just slinging mud back and forth.
Yeah.
Well done. But how does that help us? I don't see how that helps us. Labour saying they build 300,000 homes a year. Tories saying they build something similar. They're saying they fund the NHS. Labour saying they fund the NHS. Labour saying they'll cut the Rwanda bill and put it back into border force, even though the two are linked, because you don't really have to worry about border force too much. If everyone coming in the Rwanda bill was to work, you'll be sending them off. So it just seems to me like everyone's having a go at each other, and no one has come up with an actual plan to do anything. It's just to me, it's no different. 2019, fund the NHS, build more homes, sort out social care. If you're not working, you don't get paid. So what do we do with universal credit? How do we readdress that? Again, no answers, just questions. Bloody great. And also, what do we do with the unemployed? Because a lot of the universal credit is also people that necessarily can't get into work, so they're at home. So why can't they do call centre stuff? You don't have to physically go into work anymore. COVID's proved that for certain areas. You can do a lot of stuff from home. A lot of stuff. Because you've got your laptop, you're able to work, call people, you can FaceTime or Teams, anything. But they're not just, it's just question. I haven't seen any answers in the manifesto that I read.
Do you think that with that, it's more important for the incumbent government to produce maybe more important or easier for an incumbent government to lay out a more detailed manifesto than it is the other parties? So I've heard this argument, and I'm inclined to. Obviously, I don't know, but it makes sense that it's probably harder for some of the other political parties to make informed policy decisions or claims without fully understanding, looking under the car bonnet, if you like, the state of the engine, to use that analogy.
Yeah. The current government should be setting out the best policies, because it's easy for the opposition to say, we'll do this, we'll do that. Hey, vote for us, you'll get this, you'll get that. I was like, oh, sounds lovely. How are you going to do it? And yet again, they don't address it. They don't answer those questions. But the current government should definitely be setting out the strongest case. And this is me saying this. I haven't seen it. It's not the strongest case. It's just a case thrown in amongst all the others. So it's like, how much do you believe in this?
And on that, I think, again, I want to bring it back to, because I think it's important for us to share some of our personal views around that. That's why we're talking, because we come to these elections with slightly different views, political views, if not any other. And after reading you, I think we discussed it in the previous episode, you're a staunch conservative supporter.
Yeah.
And I want to explore that a little bit, because I think it's interesting. And I said, I think I listened back to the podcast, I said I was liberal. I'm liberal, but I'm probably more a Labour voter than anything else. I'm not sure if I've ever actually voted Liberal Democrats. And I'm probably a bit on the cusp. I'm definitely not going to vote Conservative this year because television before. So we'll go into that. But I'm interested, after reading, I just want to reiterate the point, after reading all the manifestos, has that changed your mind in terms of where your voting intentions are?
It's not changed my mind where I'm going to vote, because, and it's, as always, comes back to another core point that you made before, this whole, it shouldn't be about Tories this team, Labour is that team, and these are my teams. But to me, that's what it is. Because as bad as I think some policies might be, or that lackluster is a more correct term, because nothing is just punching through. They're just the same old thing I've read over the past decade. Funding this, funding that, with no explanations. And I think it's still what I dislike about the other side outweighs what I dislike about the Tory party. And that's how I'm going to still be now. Because the people that I don't like and who I see on the television or at protests or having a go with certain politicians, I really don't like those people. And they're having a go at someone that is annoying me. But I'm thinking, okay, but I really don't like those. So I'm definitely going to be with you. And it does seem, unfortunately, to you, it is teams now. I think it's got to that point where you just defend it because, and that's it. And so many people go, well, that's just silly or small-minded or short-sighted. And all these lucky words, no different to manifestos, all these lovely words. But again, no answers, just short-sighted. And it's just like, well, what answers do you have? They don't. They just bombard you with those sort of questions. I think it's this. So what's your solution? Science. And we sort of almost go around in circles. But I think we've got to the point where it is teams. It is teams.
Okay.
This your team, this my team.
I want to just explore this a little bit more with you, because I've said that to you before. It doesn't make sense to me. I think, but I think there's some context. So I've reflected on why I'm probably a little bit more of a floating voter than, and I'll try and give some context here. I'm not originally from this country. I wasn't born here. I came here when I was 3 from South Africa, and I don't have that heritage of being embedded in the political infrastructure. So I don't associate, my family historically don't associate with a particular party. And listening to and doing a bit of research in the background, listening to some other voters or other people who are active in the political community, they do have that. They've always been Labour. I think that's why, going back to the 2019 election, where Conservatives won a lot of votes from Labour, Boris Johnson did phenomenally well. It was record-breaking numbers, got a huge majority in Parliament, and I think now there's that kickback, and I think everybody expects that Labour are going to win and Conservatives are going to lose. It's by no means guaranteed, but
no, it definitely seems that way. It's just whether the numbers hold up.
Yeah. and a lot can change, but that's how it looks. Everybody's sort of talking as if Labour have won already, and the Conservatives are facing annihilation. Which,
well, in terms of seats, that's a word to use. Yeah.
And some of that could be credited to people feeling let down by the particularly historically Labour voters voting for Tories, and then the fallout with Boris Johnson, Theresa May, and now Sunak. I think a lot of people in the country feel let down, and rightly so. But going back to that, I wanted to explore your, if you don't mind sharing, because otherwise we wouldn't be doing this. Is what have your family historically been Conservative supporters, or is that
my parents have always been Conservative, always been Tory voters? A lot of that is, but you got to appreciate this is 80s and onwards. This way people go, but
how do you go?
But all you call, you don't want to go to that part of London, and that's a crappy area. That's this. Always Labour. Always has been. Always. Liverpool pride themselves, and I didn't mean pride, and to the death almost, of we've never been Tory, and you lost your World Heritage status for your harbour front and everything else. Well done. They've been Tory, and you lost the World Heritage Day.
Before, and it's
great.
I just want to hop in here because I know how passionate and collective and phenomenal a city Liverpool is. I happen to be a Liverpool fan, so I'm fully aligned with all of the Scousers out there, even the Blues. I think Liverpool is a phenomenal city. I understand their frustration, and
it is lovely,
and their political leanings and their frustration with the establishment. So before we get any abuse or hate mail or anything from anybody or any people affiliated in this area, there's not really on. I'm a massive red.
Well, there's no show
myself as an honorary Scouser.
Yeah.
No, obviously
you can't just not mention something because of what you think.
Yeah, no, and that's
backlash may or may not be.
And look, we're going to probably say some controversial things on the show, you in particular, which I'm excited about. But just a slight caveat. But sorry, I think it's a really important point that you took in. We're talking about the association, like historical voting intentions, and I think you make a good point.
But it's not just Liverpool. That was just because it's a big city. So I thought, when you get down to your boroughs in London, which is also where we're from, Southwark, Lambeth, Hackney, you either live there, you're either a yuppie who doesn't mind being robbed every now and again, or you just, we've always voted, Labour's always been here. Yeah, and it's not got any better, but you still do it. And people go, 14, 15 years of a Conservative government and nothing's changed. But you've never, ever changed your voting intentions on your councillors and stuff like that. And your area has never really improved, not in line with others, but you still do that. So people go, 14 years of this. Like, you've had 50 years of voting for Labour councillors in these boroughs. Consider the crime places, and just anyone in London knows crap areas. Walthamstow, I know it's not a borough, you get excited. I know 1965 boundary changes. Just Lambeth, Southwark, Hackney. Only Walthamstow, which is in, but Waltham Forest. So yeah,
okay.
Just people say, we need a change because of this.
But then, do you think, because it seems like it's suggesting that historically people have voted, or the insinuation is that your voting in your family was based on historical records of poor performance by local governments in certain areas.
From what I can gauge from my parents' voting intentions, yeah.
So if we take that rationale, because I'm really part of this show, whatever this is to explore is to explore like the tribalism around politics and why people vote
that you don't like. No, I don't necessarily don't like, but it's got to that point, the point you didn't want it to get to, but it feels like it's there. I'm not saying it is there. I think it. Well, let's maybe said that before, but I think it is there.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it.
I hate it. I think you can.
I think it is.
I think you should vote for. Ideally, I'm a bit of an idealist, so ideally you should vote for people who are less well off than you.
Oh.
Really, you should vote for somebody else that's going to benefit from it. And I think that you can only use the best information available at the time. And although I like being tribal in terms of who I support as a football team, it doesn't work in politics because that isn't democracy. That's something else. That fuels a dictatorship and corruption.
It's not. You're right. But then you've got that other bit, like of everything. Say something that makes sense, and then you throw it in, like when it's an internal vote in the government, and the whip goes around. If you don't vote for this, you're going to lose it. So all the, say, Tories, for example, have got to vote this way because the enforcer said that. That's democracy, apparently. So it's like they're not allowed to have their own individual MPs. Look, they should have their own views. I know they're for a party, but you still vote for an MP. 650 individual MPs, and some of them are aligned to a party. I far more appreciate that. And they should have their say. Not, this is how you're going to vote. If you don't do this, see you later. You can be the independent if you want. And there's a threat. And how's that democracy in the apparent heart of democracy? But we're supposed to abide.
Okay, so I agree, and I'd like people to fact check this because some of this I'm not 100% sure about and the way things work. And we are going to get some people, we're going to get some guests on the show who maybe know a little bit, well, definitely know a little bit more than us. We're going to get some other guests on the show who probably don't know any more than us and representatives of the public. Just people. But I want to say, to your point, I think individual MPs can choose.
Yeah, they can.
They can choose.
Yeah.
So they have that. And that's why actually voting for your individual MP is really important. And understanding what it is
the most important.
But we don't. The current political system or the way it's galvanised is we're voting for a particular party, not the individuals. And this is something I think we should focus more on. And as people become more politically aware, maybe they will, because you should get to know your local MP, understand what sort of person they are. Are they single-minded?
That's the awareness side of it. And that gets lost in London. And you can argue all you want. But it does, because you're just doing your daily stuff, going to work. You get in the tube somewhere or the bus. Your local MP don't even know their name. Whereas you go outside London, and a lot of the slightly smaller places, they know their bloody local's MP's name, 100%. And they probably even visit their office. So how many Londoners have visited their local MP's office under 40, under 40s, that have visited their local MP's office just to ask a question or see what's going on? Something. They do that.
No, it's another phenomenal point. I agree. I think that the people outside of the London bubble are probably a little bit more.
They're definitely more aware, and I said definitely more aware of local issues as stuff that affects them, whereas Londoners, have always been, we just it'll get sorted out. Or there's enough of us. They'll get sorted out. And then when it doesn't, you just go, like maybe move somewhere else. Another part of London. Well, I'm in Fulham now.
It's like, I wonder if I want to expand the conversation outside of the London bubble as well, because I think you make another valid point around the political engagement outside of London and how communities probably have a better relationship, or at least know who their politicians are.
Ooh.
Why do you think that is in London that they don't?
I think it's I've
got a follow-up question. Sorry to interrupt. How much do you think the impact that local politicians in London has is less than outside of the, or is this a wider political point?
I think it's less. I also think over the years, let's say 15. Everyone loves the numbers. No percent over the years. People go, how long? 15. Over the last 15 years, there's been way more movement. So people come in different, not just demographics, but different
fucking immigrants.
Well, that's a massive problem. And when it goes to that, you're not an immigrant.
Huh? I literally am an immigrant. What am I?
Not out. This is like the time of the modern times. Not, there we go.
I'm adding.
He's going to say it, so therefore he thinks this. Going to say it, therefore he thinks this. You're not that sort of immigrant. There you go. How'd you like that one?
This doesn't. I'm adding this. There's
You're not that sort of.
There's a board here with an outline of
put it on T-shirts, or I'm not that sort of immigrant. Because like anything else, the whole poor doctors coming in and blah blah coming in.
Right, I wanted to
no, I want to go lazy as in life.
No, but I think Green Job. I want to come back to a point. You make a really, really good point. I think before I talked about immigration, you talked about immigration, which I think without getting too caught up in the rights and wrongs of immigration. You were making a point about the movement, and London as a big city, a big hub, probably or definitely does have a lot more immigration, good and bad.
And this, it's a mixture of the times and the metropolis, where people aren't staying 10, 15, 20 years anywhere. They're 2-3 years running, and that reflects their voting intentions, because they then vote enough somewhere else. And they're thinking, that's what I want. But there's a lot of, that's what I want, they move to a certain area, 2 years, they move on somewhere else. And you see flips, like Putney, for example, in Wandsworth. Tory for a fairly long time, and then Labour. Because after COVID and everything, and the next council votes just to not the government. So you just...
That's a valid reason not to vote for.
Yes, but your local councillor isn't the government.
Agreed.
Government assigns money to these boroughs, as they do the rest of the country, and it's down to those councillors to do something. Like you're voting for local MP, don't think of a party, hard not to. Same as councillors. They're the ones doing it. So all these moans from Southwark, Lambeth, Hackney, anywhere else, and they go, we've always had Labour.
Those are protest votes.
They're problems.
They're protest votes.
Yes, they are, but they're not helping anyone when it comes to your local councillor vote. So not your MP, your local councillor vote.
I keep saying you made a valid point there, because I think you have, and it makes sense. It's a point. But I want to go back to the impact of having or voting for individual MPs in your area, which then increases, and this is maybe links to another subject we're going to cover later around first past the post and tactical voting, because ultimately the party's majority is decided by the number of votes won in each of the local boroughs or constituents.
Yeah.
And then if a party has more members in the House, that gives them a larger majority and allows them to enforce their rules and regulations, their political changes more easily. And coming back to the bit about where you were talking about MPs being whipped into voting for certain policies, we touched on the fact that an MP doesn't have to, but the whips do a really good job. And as I understand it, the whips are
Rottweilers.
Are a collective group of people within the government who will cajole, encourage, enforce, manipulate, probably all sorts of different things to get them to vote their way. Yeah, correct. And it got particularly nasty. There was quite a lot of commotion recently, certainly during Boris Johnson's time, and in and around Brexit, and a lot of the Tory party, who had a majority, still enforcing a lot of their policies. and pushing them through by using the whips. I'm just trying to summarise some of the bits again that we've covered here and talk about. We started off with the manifesto.
But they're so lackluster. I don't think they deserve a major talking point, because no one has punched through and gone, certainly haven't gone, that's actually, that could work. It's just same old to me.
The headlines that I saw from some of them were the Labour Party one looks quite slick, looks quite different. I had a little browse of it. It's interactive. It's got lots of different.
They mention points that get your attention. It's after that is my point.
And I find it fascinating that then we're not, as the public or the media, holding them more accountable for producing a really detailed and well worked out plan. It's mad.
I think the media just wait for someone to come in and then they start their little stuff, which you should be doing before, because it's too late, in order to have something proper in place when you are in bloody government, not go after you afterwards or start attacking things after, because that fire in their belly before.
Ultimately, government is a business. Essentially, it's the business of how the country is run. So it should have a clear plan in place. Everything should be costed up and should have as much detail as possible. These are significant decisions that are going to impact everybody's livelihood.
Fine.
There are a lot of people in business who spend a lot of time reading the manifestos, because then they make bets off the back of them. So it's assumed that Labour are going to win the general election. So there will be a lot of people looking at the policies and what's in the Labour manifesto to then see how they can adapt and create businesses off the back of those promises.
Yeah.
And traditionally, the manifesto should be something that is enacted. It's their commitment to a degree of what they're going to do in their first act in Parliament.
Yeah.
I just want to touch on, we've covered Labour a little bit and the Conservatives. I haven't read them. It's naughty, but maybe I'll be representative, but
real, honest, and how some people are. And by some, quite a lot of people.
We've covered the manifesto. I don't think we covered it in that much detail, but to be fair, based on what you said...
Well, honestly, I don't see the details to cover. That's my view on it. It's no different to 2019, 2017, 2015, 2010, 2005, 2001, 1997, 1993. More money for NHS, build more homes. Yes, lovely bullet points, lovely slogans and headlines. Nothing about how you're going to achieve this. That's it. They barely cover taxes. Or, we won't do this, won't do that. Then how the hell are you going to come up with the money for this thing? Just say, we have to raise tax a little bit. So what do you say to people? We're going to have to do this. It'd be £1 extra a month. But after all the millions of people paying this tax, it's quite a lot of extra money. But just say it.
I agree, but that would be political suicide for any party, especially considering where we are with taxes under the Tory government, and they're at their highest level they've ever been. It's sort of part natural because of inflation, but also when everything else has gone to pot in this country and we're not seeing investment in grassroots, it's not going into the NHS, we're just not getting the value for money from this government.
But the drop in national insurance did improve my paycheck, and it must have improved millions of people's paychecks, even though it was, 2-3 pence? Something like that?
Yeah, but
I was extra £150 a month for me.
When was that? Earlier this year? Last year?
Yeah, earlier this year.
I'm going to be a skeptic and think that was a deliberate ploy
to show what you can do.
To show what you can do when they could have done that much earlier, and it was a bit like robbing Peter to pay Paul. I get it, and I think they've tried to use that. I think that's been the Tory strategy, which is bizarre because the taxes are the highest and they've raised significantly under a Tory party, which isn't very conservative.
No.
So it isn't actually in line with
COVID. You got a budget for 2 years of growth.
I don't fully buy the COVID.
Just the upsurge of Boris Johnson with, it means loads of different things that do one. It also means power, about you powering through. Many different meanings.
For those viewers or listeners just listening to this, Gary did what would you call that symbol?
That's up yours. That's up the arse. That's what that means. Do one.
It's where you get you clench your bicep and you.
It also just means power as well.
Yeah,
so if I don't put this arm out, this is how
it's quite.
There you go. That's different. For this, it's so completely different.
I think it's quite an old school thing. I think there's a generation that wouldn't know what that is. If you did that to one of the youths in the street, they wouldn't have a.
But it's like classic of the American audience. The word bollocks. They know it at certain times. The bollocks, great. The bollocks, bad. Dog bollocks, great.
It's like back to the good segue. Back to the point I was going to say. I think no party could suggest they were raising taxes, even if, and that might be necessary. There's no doubt that this whole country needs serious investment in infrastructure, particularly the NHS. Depends on where you're at with the defence argument. The police departments need investment everywhere. Schools, you name it. Anyway, I don't think any party could do that, and it's interesting that Labour have specifically avoided doing that. They've gone completely the opposite way. I think that was a strategy and a tactic to position themselves, and having listened to some other more esteemed, learned people in this sphere, historically no Labour opposition has won when saying they'll raise taxes, even though it is a traditional Labour policy that you invest and raise taxes. So it'll be interesting to see what happens if they do with.
But to me, it always feels like, the people are too stupid to understand. Because that's how I feel about it. I don't want taxes being raised, but I understand a couple of bloody quid, a couple of £2 or £3 out of my wages going towards something else. I understand that. So just to say, it just suggests that if they were to say it like, people don't understand that, people are stupid. That's how I interpret it. That's how it feels to me. If you can't understand that sometimes you need to raise a little bit in order to do something else, then who are they speaking? Who are we speaking?
So I would argue that there's a famous quote about people being.
But how long ago was that one?
Well, and where's look, find the quote. What's the quote?
Well, I don't know, but true. What is? Give me the rough outline of it, and I can Google it.
It's the people are stupid in politics.
The whole a person is smart, people are stupid.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And I would argue that Brexit proved that point. We had many a conversation about Brexit, around Brexit, and the potential fallout and implications. And actually, this wasn't on the list, and I don't know if we've got time to go into the detail, but it's going on the list.
Is there ever time?
It's the elephant in the room. Brexit. No party is really talking about Brexit. I do think that
what the Tories are saying on the letter was sent out, how got Brexit done and that side of things. So they are talking about it, but it's not a manifesto piece.
What did they get?
Just that it was done. And then COVID hit.
Because that's the obvious.
People won't take that factor out.
COVID.
Yeah, which is a major factor because it's near impossible to quantify. What if? It's like a police car patrolling past and it stopped a robbery. You can never quantify that, can you? You don't know that because someone saw that police car, they then didn't rob someone, and now both those parties are fine.
Are you saying the success or failure?
I think Brexit
was impacted by COVID.
I think, I do think that.
Why? How?
Because the majority Boris Johnson got in the 2019 election, I think everything was just starting. Bear in mind, this was December 2019. And by, January, it's all starting to come ahead and by March, we're already in our restrictions. But things were already hitting home, not 2 months later. What are you supposed to get done in 2 months? And then all the restrictions come in and just slam the door in your face. No one's really making money. That sort of thing. I just think it'd be lovely to know what it would be like if COVID hadn't struck when the December 2019 election was called.
I put a little asterisk on it because I think we could do a whole episode on Brexit and maybe it's kind of what we can
do 50 episodes on it.
Yeah, it's probably already been done.
That's the but that's the thing again.
And maybe the reason why people aren't talking about it is the teams thing. It is the teams. I think it's tribal. I think we park it and then come back to it. So I'm conscious of time. So we've only got maybe another 20 minutes or so. And I want to. We've sort of covered the manifestos. I think this is quite interesting. At least I want to bring it to the fore. I'm checking my phone because one, I'm checking that it's recording because it didn't last time. Hopefully it did on here. Hello. But one of the other topics, and I'll show you a picture of this at the end. I'll take a picture and put it in the group chat. We've got group, yeah. Politician of the campaign. I threw this in as a bit of a late pun because I thought it'd be quite interesting. Obviously there's the leaders for each of the political parties. And I'm trying to think about. Can you name them all?
Right.
Oh. So maybe politician of the campaign. But one thing, if you're following the elections and following to our earlier point, trying to figure out who your local MP is and looking at some of the personalities in the parties, there's been a few people who have probably come to the fore a little bit more, most recently in the political debates. Oh, yeah. Wow, this is going to be gold. Listeners, the order's going to be out. Stay tuned.
That's just, if anyone had to stand out, is it because how much TV time she's had? Is it?
Well, okay, let me just finish my train of thought here. So one, there's been the political, the debates, the leaders' debates and others. So you've obviously got Keir Starmer, you've obviously got Sunak, you've got Angela Rayner has been prominent. Again, we'll maybe cover some of those bits later. Who's the Tory lady carried? No, not her. The one who carried the sword, Penny Mordaunt.
Yeah. Do you know what, actually?
No, you can't shout her out, surely.
I'm only going to shout her out because it's a classic. What am I left with?
I'm going to do.
Apart from her trans views, she's got a lot of things going for her. You can't identify between a man and a woman. I don't know what's going on there. But
I'm not going near that.
Yeah, why? Why are people not going near it? How do we progress our race if you can't even understand biology? It's just insane. You can identify what you like.
I'm going to bring us back because we're in danger of going.
Right, I'm going to shout out to Penny Mordaunt then.
Okay, no, I want you to come back to the one that you've just shown me.
Yes, me.
But let me just. I want to name the rest of the political leaders. So Ed, Liberal. Who's the Liberal one? Ed Davey, yes. To be fair, we haven't mentioned Liberal Democrats at all, and I think we should because they've run. Yeah, we should a little bit because they have traditionally been the third biggest party.
Oh yeah,
and they have a chance of overtaking the Conservatives.
Everyone loves polls.
And Ed Davey, although I haven't loved all of his stuff, I haven't seen it. It's had a bit of a Boris Johnson vibe to it in terms of the buffoonery. How he's had to get attention, Liberal Democrats.
Did you say yourself the only reason everyone hand out pamphlets, leaflets, whatever, that because of all their shenanigans and what they're doing, trying to grab publicity, that something you've been more aware of the Liberal Democrats?
Yes. So I think it works. So I think they have to do that because they don't get the spotlight or the attention from the mainstream media. I don't know why I did that. Sorry, but what they have, their manifesto, a lot of their manifesto, and particularly Ed Davey's positioning is around social care. And I saw the video that he had on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, and I thought it was very moving and helped you connect with him on another level. I think that's interesting. The Green Party have got two. Have they got two leaders?
Yeah, and their co-leader was. Compared to his way of raising money, was compared to Liz Truss's policy on also trying to raise money through that infamous budget. So as the Greens.
I actually, I'm a little bit disappointed in the Greens, because if ever there was an opportunity for the Greens to seize some of the momentum and become a serious party, surely it's now, when we are obviously in the midst of a huge climate crisis, and it should be the main topic, but they're not landing.
But it's a big topic in big parties. It might have been main, but it's up there. It's a bullet point.
It's all it is, though. It's a bullet point.
Yeah, but they can't just have a party. How do you be called the Green Party, and that's it? What else are you going to do? People got to live, so got to buy stuff. Things are going to be wrapped in plastic every now and again. Can't just be the Green Party and that's it.
I'm sort of half listening, because I'm desperately embarrassed that I can't remember who my favourite Green Party politician is. If you're watching,
That's in favour of Green Party.
yeah, she's amazing. She's standing down. She was the leader.
Not the Brighton one.
What's her, Caroline? Oh, she's incredible. I actually watched her on another show with the Greek financial chap. You're meant to be doing this.
That's fine. If you say something, then I do it.
Okay, can you find? I don't just go. What's her name? Is it Caroline Lucas, or is that? Is it?
Pretty sure it is.
That's
how much I think about her. And the people of Brighton who constantly vote for Greens think things are going to be changed. Incredible.
While you're talking about that, there's the other party is Reform, and I don't want to give him any more airtime at all. Although I'd love to have him on the show. Yeah, Caroline Lucas. Yeah, she's brilliant, amazing. Green Party are going to miss her already. And they haven't they haven't landed. I'm sure that the people in the Green Party have good intentions and they're trying to do the right things, but maybe they should have been doing more of the stuff the Liberal Dems do. Liberal Democrats.
Or be active in a bigger party. So inject your Green MPs, if you like, but in a party and make those your main points instead of being a fringe. If they had something, just decades, if they had something, they'd be bigger. People would have been voting for them. It's like, yeah, that makes sense.
Because it's quite, I think it's quite unique in the UK. Maybe it's because it's one of the oldest democracies. Sorry, Greece. It lost. There's more parties. I don't know enough about other establishments. Obviously, America, it's a two-party state.
Republican, Democrat.
But there are in Europe, again, maybe it's because it's more evolved democracy.
There's always coalitions. They rarely have. Mainland Europe rarely has. I know France has, but they rarely have one party that does something. So like Tory or Labour or something. They generally have coalitions.
Maybe that's something for us to investigate. And I'm going to reach out and break the fourth or fifth wall here and just implore our listeners and readers, and anyone tuning in, if you've got any topics you want us to cover that you think we've sort of skirted past or haven't quite delved into properly, because I think this has been a little bit erratic in some of the conversation. I mean,
as life is.
As life is. So let us know. Feedback. Talk to us. So you were going to announce your politician of the campaign, and I'm going to...
Joe, I was just going to say it now. I had Kiri up there. But I'm going to go with...
I want to hear your reasons behind Kimmy. Yes, keep going.
Yes, exactly. So you could be like, oh, look at those ignorant, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know shit.
It's not about that. It's just...
By the way, the language on the previous podcast was quite bad. There was a lot of swearing. It was not suitable for some people with sensitive ears. I think we've touched on it a little bit.
But surely you're 18 plus if you're going to vote. So why else are you listening to it?
Right, my shout out, and this I'm checking here because I only heard Kimmy Badenoch.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Badenoch. Because apologies for murdering.
I'm not apologising because I just don't want to get it wrong so that you don't know.
But why? All right, see,
and only certain people, by the way, use a lot.
Things do here. You say so. You were going to say Kimmy, but now
I was. But as a standout after the whole D-Day thing, with Sunak, Penny stepped up and said some stuff. The only thing that bothered me about her stuff before was the whole women and penises thing. It's just ridiculous to me. But if that's all I'm focusing on, she's got clearly other good points. She's done well in debates.
Which debates? She did not do well
against Angela Rayner.
That was awful. Neither of them came out particularly well from that. And I just want to caveat this because we're talking about...
I could come out better against Angela Rayner.
Yeah, maybe, but neither of them did. And I think both, and particularly Penny, and maybe I'm being a bit unfair, but I thought her performance was a bit tone deaf, to be honest. I think I just want to caveat this, by the way, because I think that MPs and politicians get a lot of stick and a lot of grief for doing their jobs. And I know that there's a heightened level of security and death threats and provocation towards MPs in this tribal world that we live in. And I think, from what I've read and understand, that women and black and ethnic minority groups get a sickening amount of abuse that's wildly inappropriate. So I think we probably need to make sure that we're holding everybody to the same high standards of the office and not picking on minority groups, for want of a better word.
No.
So I don't think, but it's great that you're shouting out those two female MPs. I don't agree with it. My particular,
just quickly, I do find it interesting and funny, proper funny, that Angela Rayner was kept off Twitter and just being generally on telly or anything for months and months and months until suddenly the polls were in favour of Labour, and then she was allowed back onto Twitter because when she talks...
Yeah, but why was it? There was another reason, because she was being attacked for not claiming, not declaring how
the House thing came. She was already off Twitter for months before that because she cannot help herself. But when you're leading the polls, it doesn't matter if you can't help yourself.
But people want to see that from politicians. That's that they want to see.
Yeah, they want another dumb person being there, and then they eventually just moan about Labour. So let's just deal with that when it comes in the future. Well, 14 years.
Oh, this is the thing, right? I think Conservatives have been getting it, and rightly so, over the last...
Anyway. I just want to say it because otherwise if I don't say anything, it seems like I'm just agreeing with it. But yes.
And rightly, they've been getting it, and rightly so, over the last couple of years. But it will be interesting to see how quickly that turns. I think Labour might have a small, if they win, then they'll have a small honeymoon period. But I would not be surprised to see the very traditional mainstream media newspaper groups. We all know who they are. And we'll maybe talk
Not the Mirror.
Not the Mirror, no, they're not exactly.
Oh, anti-royalist, anti-British newspaper.
So, okay, let's name them. But so you've got the Mirror and the Guardian are traditionally a little bit more Labour, liberal, left-wing.
Words.
Yeah, I love the Guardian, by the way.
What were we supposed to do?
Then you've got the big ones, which are, you've got the Sun, you've got the Daily Mail, you've got the Telegraph, and they're all Tory papers.
So what do you think the Times is then?
It's Tory because it's
yeah, but it's just saying Tory, but only just
because it's probably a little more. Ultimately, they're both owned by Rupert Murdoch, so he probably.
But look at Sky News. Yeah. Ultimately, that was owned by Rupert Murdoch, and look at Sky News Australia versus Sky News here. Sky News here could be the most left-wing.
Again,
media group I've ever seen. In the last 10 years, they've changed.
We could have a whole debate about this. Again, maybe this is another episode, but because everybody, you think that the BBC is particularly in favour of, we've had this conversation before, right? You think it's quite biased over to Labour.
BBC, yeah. They're one of the ones.
My experience of it has been actually they've been supporting and propping up Conservatives in many different ways. And actually, the BBC, and yes, yeah, I know, I've seen this. I'm not sure I see it clearly because that's been my view. The big issue with the BBC, I don't want to mention his name. I'm going to do it anyway. Why are they giving the platform to Nigel Farage? I don't know. If you look at the stats around his appearances on Question Time, he's one of the most prominent MP. He's not even an MP. He's one of the most prominent people.
Well, yeah, just you've got to do wind-ups. They're easy.
Yeah, he's nice, but he's still there, isn't he? His name's there. To not mention him, and now he's standing to be an MP.
Yeah, now maybe. Anyway, right, we're segueing because I haven't mentioned who I think is the politician of the campaign. I heard this morning on Leading, which is the very good political podcast with Alistair Campbell and forgetting his name, Roy Stewart. He's really good.
Funny, nice.
Bridget Phillipson, who is the deputy, or the shadow shadow education minister. And honestly, it's the first time I've heard her speak, but I thought she was brilliant. She spoke really clearly. She's clearly got a set of values. She's very articulate, but not in a well-spoken way necessarily. Not that she wasn't well-spoken, but she's very passionate. You could see what she believes in, and I think what I took from that and how she spoke about the changes that are happening in Parliament, let's not forget that there are hundreds of Tory MPs rapidly leaving shit, stepping down before the general election. So there's going to be a huge influx of...
Hopefully the media do that, but yeah.
There's a huge influx of new talent or people entering the political landscape. And for the first time in a while, I was heartened and felt optimistic about what that might mean for the country, which I'm excited about. This is a great country. It's got tremendous people in it, and it's got an opportunity to grow and do wonderful things if it's steered in the right direction by good people. And I think if we get the right people in place, then maybe
it'll be...
Okay, chaps and ladies and people who identify as both or either. I think that's a wrap for now. Thank you for listening to us. Tune in, press the subscribe button, message us, donate your time, your energy, get politically active. Listen,
what you like, because then we can build on that. Don't hold back. Because people do. Hold back, nothing gets done. Don't keep it in.
I've been Michael McConaughey.
I've also been Gary.
He's also Gary.
Dying man.
This
Still there.
was episode 2 of whatever this is.